refining, post-processing, adding any of the artistic look, if you will. I saw some of Ira's images. It was cool, the stuff that he's doing. I like when people think outside the box and get creative like that. And then we're going to talk about sharing your art, different ways and things to include. Instead of just, versus just sharing just an image, we're going to add and elaborate on that. And then, of course, all important gear. I really like reaching into people's pocket and spending their money. So, no, but kidding aside, without the gear, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of this stuff. I probably have way too much gear, but I have something for all kinds of situations, and I've gravitated towards things that are specific for the phone that I think you'll find helpful. And again, all this stuff is really just my one opinion. So take it with a grain of salt, but I hope that I can build some awareness and help improve. And then we're going to open it up to questions at the end. One of my favorite quotes by the man, Ansel Adams, the single most important component of a camera is the 12 inches behind it. I absolutely believe that. The reason I do is because you guys know everyone has different cameras, different tools, but guess what? When you see some of those images, you go, no way did you shoot that with the phone, or no way did you do this. It's possible today. Now, I know some people have iPhone 6s or some later models of Androids, and some have the latest, or at least close to it. A lot of stuff we're going to talk about doesn't matter what you have. There's going to be some things that I'm going to talk about in the later ones because I think it's important to understand what's coming or what's out, because it's different. It changes so rapidly. You guys know how fast these iPhones come out. It's crazy. They just bam, bam. And then the cost of these laptops, it's just insane. But so what's great about the phone is it's with you all the time now, right? So you have a camera with you all the time. So we should really get to learn how to use that effectively. Photography. Another great quote I love Bob Ross. Used to watch him as a kid all the time. We don't make mistakes. We just have happy accidents. And I believe that too. What's great about mistakes is they're not really mistakes, right? We're learning as we're failing, and it's not really fails. It's just we're getting to a place where we want to be in our art. So I love this quote by the man, Bob. So let's get into some apps here. And before we jump in here, if you guys have any questions, just throw them in there. We're going to monitor it. I'm going to look at it too. If there's something I might answer while we're going in, but if not, we're going to get to your questions at the end. So if you think anything you want to ask, I enjoy answering those. I want to make sure you get the answers that you need. All right, apps. This is I'm sure you know and played in the iTunes App Store or in Play Google or wherever you're going to find your apps, and it can be overwhelming. So I want to tell you, I can't stress this enough. The frustration level on this can get crazy, and I'm sure you guys have been there at times. Take it really slow, a little bit at a time. I can't stress that enough. Take it one step at a time. When you get in these apps, use one of the things, try it out, and just be patient. So I want to say that ahead of time because it can be very, very difficult and frustrating. And if you have any questions, when you're trying to do something outside of what we're going to talk about today, but any of this, just use Professor Google. I tell my dad all the time, I said, Dad, just type the exact question you want in Google, and usually you're going to find the answer. You might have to do a little searching, but it's very helpful. So we've got the iPhone app, which is the native app. So the top ones are the native app. Google is for the Google Pixel, but you can also download that and use that camera as well. And then Samsung that's what we call the native app, which is actually the app that comes on your phone when you buy it. And then the next row down there are a couple apps. So the ProCam 8 is a great app for the iPhone. The reason I like that is because actually those three at the bottom have manual setting capabilities. So you're able to adjust for the most part, depending on the model of camera you have. The older cameras, you can adjust the aperture, the f-stop, though it's slight, but you can adjust it. The newer models, not so much. So that's why these are helpful. You can adjust shutter speed, you can exposure compensation. all kinds of things. Now, the Pro Cam, both those Pro Cams they have a fee to them, so just be aware of that. And then the one in the middle, Lightroom, I don't know if any of you guys use Lightroom, but it has some great camera capabilities as far as using the pro settings on that is what they call it. So we're going to jump into a little bit of those in a minute here. And then there's the processing apps. I am probably 99.999% when I'm just using my phone, Snapseed. It's an incredible app. It has great capabilities. Now, a lot of apps are catching up. I noticed that Instagram has its ability to do some of the things in there that Snapseed can do, but it's so robust. Vesco is something that's great for filters if you want to do some kind of filter looks on them. That has a great app for that. And then Lightroom, what's great about Lightroom is that if you're a Lightroom user in general or Photoshop, it actually will sync with the images and everything will sync right with your Lightroom. So that's a great advantage there as well. And then we can get to the additional tools, which go on and on and on and on. And so here's a couple that I use, and I know there's others out there that have but these are ones I've used for quite a while. So I'm really happy with them. They do what I need. The tides, it's great for when I'm trying to look for tidal pools, or I want to go out when the tide's out, so the water's way out, say on the Oregon coast, and I want the sea stacks, I want the water way out. So I can look up the tides. I can look up sunset, sunrise. Sun Surveyor is great. I can pinpoint right in a spot, and then I know where the sun's going to rise in relation to that spot, and the moon as well. And you can actually just drop the thing, you'll see where it is. And I actually used it for when I went to scout by you guys, and I said, where would I want to be when the sun breaks? And so I actually positioned myself right where I needed to be, and it literally just broke right there. So I knew that I had that shot. So pre-planning is helpful, especially when you haven't been to a place and you don't know where you're going. This is true for any photography you do. It doesn't need to be your phone. These are great apps. PlantNet is one great for identifying things. There's all kinds. There's butterflies, there's mushrooms, and so on. So there's all kinds of apps. If you're really interested in any of those and you want to know more about it, drop me a note, send me a message, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it or lead you in a direction that will be most helpful for you guys. Here's a handful of creative apps. There's a zillion up there, all kinds. You can do all kinds of stuff, 360s and wacky stuff, but here's some that are very helpful. Touch, Retouch, if you're not familiar with that. It's kind of, if you're a Photoshop user, it's kind of like, whatchamacallit, I don't know why I'm missing it, but you'll be able to take objects out, kind of like, you guys know what I'm talking about. So in Light, PhotoFox is a great one to do all kinds of stuff in. So here's some options for you guys. Afterlight and Prisma, they just do different artistic stuff. You can add, you can do double exposures, you can adjust all kinds of things in there and get more creative with it than just your regular picture. So if you're entering your study group contest, this is probably in that other category where the judges really don't like those categories where they're all artistic and goofy and not a pure image. So have fun with those. But those are just a couple that are available for both Android and iOS, your iPhone. Fun stuff. All right, let's get to the good making here. Making images. Talk about capture. So here's an iPhone shot. That's actually my dad. It's a bridge in Oregon. He's shooting some cascading falls. That's his iconic look with his hat and his knee pads and his vest. So this is just your regular native app for iPhone. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar. If you're before the later model of the 8, you don't have the portrait mode. But anybody after that will have the portrait mode, which is a great mode. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Um, so the settings, and this is in a later model. This is actually my daughter. The settings down there at the bottom. Can you guys see my mouse here? Yeah, okay, good. So what you do is you just pull up from the bottom. This is your shutter button. You pull up from the bottom and it'll have your all your flash. You want your flash, you know, crop or the ratio. This is your exposure compensation. You can time your shot and so on. They're filters. So you can adjust things that you want to adjust. Some of this may be review for you guys. I just want to just kind of briefly talk through it a little bit for those that aren't familiar with it. And then we talked about portrait mode. This is Gary's best friend. And what I love about portrait mode, I personally am an Android shooter, Samsung. I have the new phone, which I'm super excited about. But I also have a couple iPhones that I have for teaching purposes. So all my daughters have iPhones, so I'm pretty versed in the iPhone. But the camera, the ability to have the micro SD card in the Samsung was a great add because I take so much pictures that I needed extra space, and so that's why I've kind of run down the Samsung line. But all these tools are just they're great. These cameras, these phones. But what I like about portrait mode a lot is that, and you notice I've got I purposely put a little more blur on my face so you could see, but you're able to catch that edge and just blur out the background more. And this is great for, you know, any of your wildlife photography, especially over there at Wakadahachi, that you get so close to those wood storks there that, you know, your foot's what I call the foot zoom, because cameras, when you pinch in, you guys know it deteriorates the image. So if you can use your foot zoom and walk in closer to the image, that's one way to get it closer. But the other way to get closer is you can put on a lens. And they have the lenses to add on. But portrait mode's great for that. It's great for shooting some macro photography too. If you're up close, you'll be able to get that great bokeh in the back and blur it out. So it works for, you know, different images. And then you can adjust the light in the later models, the later iPhones, which is pretty cool. You can put in spotlights, all kinds of lights and add, and it's just amazing what they're doing with these things. And then the later models, I don't know what version that started at, but the night mode is great. It may have updated some of the earlier ones, but I'm not sure. But what's great about that is now we're able to, one of the handicaps or one of the challenges, I should say, for iPhone is that in the low light situations for phone photography in long distance, so when you're shooting across a field, let's say a pack of wolves, or in macro photography, those were the three limitations that were really difficult for the phone to capture a properly exposed image. But now through software, they've overcome those things, and they put in some incredible cameras and and technology into these phones that are able to handle these now. So the night mode's cool. That's a lot of fun to play with, especially for astrophotography. And then if you want to light paint on top of that. Samsung, so this is a native Samsung. You know, they're all pretty similar. They're just different names. This one, Samsung has a portrait mode too. They have all kinds of video pro mode, which is nice. So Samsung actually has a pro mode that you can do all the adjustments that you would on your DSLR or mirrorless. Here's a list. So they have all these functionalities of panoramic. The food is kind of like a portrait. This one doesn't particularly have the portrait, but then the later one does. This is actually they just updated it. So this was probably late last year. This shot was, but all kinds of options in there. Video. Something that I think you guys should consider, especially when you're using your phone, even when you're using your DSLR or mirrorless. I have been shooting for a while now, but actually this work trip, I I've been shooting a lot of video. I've been doing a lot of video on my phone where I'm pausing it and I'm kind of making and filming, and I'll be happy to share this with you guys because I did a lot over by you. I'm just going to put together, if you're familiar with that series called Sunrise Earth. It's a really cool series. I think it's Discovery or it's Net Geo. Not sure, but they would just every morning they did it, and they aired it either 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and they did an hour of just out somewhere in a swamp, and they just showed different aspects of the swamp in video, and it was really cool. So I was shooting a lot of that. So I would encourage, and I'm going to throughout this presentation, that you guys shoot video. Just flip it to video, record a little bit. Especially with these later phones, the later phones, I am capturing images off of my video when I'm just having my video going, and then I'm hitting the capture button, and the quality is off the charts. And so all video is just 30 frames per second. So if you had your camera shooting, and some of them do at 30 frames a second, you're actually capturing video. So think about that. Welcome to the party. So the pro mode, here's an example of it. You've got these settings, so I can set the ISO, I can set the f-stop, and I can do the shutter speed. This is autofocus to manual focus, which is great. At times I can do the white balance, and then I can set up, you know, typical settings in standard, or you know, whatever you're shooting, if you guys use that. So this is a great thing to use, and this is very similar. I know this is the Samsung app, but this is very similar in the Pro Cam 8. They have these capabilities, so I would consider it, if you don't have it, to get them and try them out. And then what's cool about the Pro mode is that I can autofocus lock here, and then if I want my exposure here, I can lock it here and then have that, and that's how I shoot. And so the focus is locked here, and that's just a matter of using all your fingers and separating. So that's a great feature. A lot of the manual apps have those. The ones I mentioned do. And then the other one is Lightroom. What's great, I like Lightroom because it has that in the center here, able for focus and all that, but it also has a level here. So these will go cocked if you're off or whatever, and then you can just, here's how you adjust your ISO, shutter speed, and so on. You can always put it on auto if you have to, but works great. RAW versus JPEG. A lot of the pro apps you can shoot RAW. I shoot RAW in my phone. I shoot RAW in my mirrorless Sony system. JPEG once in a while, sometimes I add it, but mostly RAW because I just like having that RAW file, so that if I need to do anything with it, but I always have all the data that I can possibly get. So I know there's always a debate about RAW versus, and DNG is pretty much RAW. And JPEG. It's personal preference. Nothing wrong with JPEG. It's real quick and easy to share it if you need to send it or what have you. Snapseed actually does, you can edit raw images in Snapseed. So that's what's great about that too. And then the exposure compensation, iPhone has this now as well, which is great. I don't know if the newer models do, but you can adjust that. That's great because you don't have to worry about the other settings. You can have everything set and holding, and you can just add or take away light if you need to in certain situations. So that's important. All right, now let's get to some stuff that's really going to hammer you guys here and create some great images. So instantly improve your photography. Okay, here's some tips. All right, we're going to shoot for the moon, if you will. All right, number one, subject. Okay, and with the first 4 tips I'm going to give you here, we always ask a question. We want you to ask this question to yourself. Okay, the question is, what is the subject and where do you place it in the picture space? So when you're out there shooting and you're trying to compose something and you think about what is the real subject here? Okay, so what story am I trying to tell? Where do I want my viewer's eye to go and rest? Okay. So those are what you need to think about. If it's texture, you want to fill the frame with the texture and show the texture. You want to have all this stuff over here, and that's not being a part of it. So think about that. Couple things to think about. Rule of thirds, okay? Not really a rule. I think it's a great guideline. I think it's a great start. Okay, it's a great place to, think about putting your point of interest, and then go from there. Think about moving it way off, see what kind of feeling. That's I'm a big fan and a photographer for feel. It's a lot like Ira and I were talking the other day about it, and I don't like to get all caught up in the numbers. Some people ask me, what did you shoot that at? What was the settings? I'm like, I have no idea. When I'm shooting, I look at, okay, is my shutter speed enough? Because I'm concerned about motion. All right, so make sure it's fast enough. When you're shooting birds, right, we need to have it up high. We need to be able to capture and stop action, unless you want that, blurring of the wings, right? So then we want to slow it down. But I like to think of move in direction. Do I want to add light, or do I want to take light away? Which way does that go? And it's much like the histogram, or much like your settings on your DSLR. Plus is one way, minus is the other. So think about that. The other thing is, just get out of the idea of, I got to have it at f8, I got to have this and that. How much do you want in focus? Okay, well, sometimes f8 is it, but sometimes maybe it's f9 or f10, or you just need to think about how much of that space you want in focus. Something I tell a lot of the people that I speak to is my bread analogy. So if you think of the picture space from the front to the back, all the way, whatever's in there as a loaf of bread, all sliced up, your sandwich bread. And you think about the front heel's the front, the back heel's the back, and which slice in there are you going to focus on, and how many slices? But based on the subject. So think about that. Try off center, moving into the frame. Give it a sense of motion. Like if you're shooting a flower, have a little tilt on it so it looks like it's kind of blowing and caught in the wind. All right, and then give breathing room. This is super important for bird photography. I'm sure a lot of you have shot a bunch of birds. You need to leave some room because they're moving, and when you get back, you want to crop. So think about that. Light, well, probably the most important thing. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have much, would we? So the question that goes with that, what will enhance your subject best? So what will bring out and tell that story the best? And think about the different types of light. What kind of light do we have? We got directional and quality, right? So try side light. What does side light do? Side light increases texture, right? It gives you the shadows, so think about side light. Think about rear light. Illuminate something, right? Silhouette. It can have a nice, especially on those birds or trees, it'll give a nice rim light around it. That's really cool. And then think about quality of light. Cool versus warm. Diffused versus, not diffused. Like on cloudy days, flowers are great because it enriches the colors. Bird photography works too. The colors of the bird, but you don't have the harsh shadows if the sun is directly overhead. So think about when if you're out there in the hot and you like that kind of thing, think about shooting, on a cloudy day during the high hours. It's a shot of Mount Hood there at the bottom. And then the next tip is background. Does the background add to or take away from your subject? I think this is as important, almost just as important as the subject, because if you have some background that's competing with your subject, your image is going to fail, right? It's not going to be as impactful as you wish, right? So it's going to fall a little bit short. I'm not going to say that it's going to be bad, but it's not going to be as good as great as it can be. So think about the background. Think about if you have a light subject like that leaf, you got a dark background. So you got a light subject and you put in a dark background. Contrast, so key. You have a light, dark subject, have a light background. So contrast, avoid clutter, keep it simple. Simplicity is great. If you have a lot of chaotic going on, if you're subject chaos, that works. But if it's not, it probably doesn't work. So think about keeping it very simple and complementary too. And then the last one of the first 4 tips with the question is edges. Okay, is there anything too close to the edge or just cut off? Sure, you've shot a lot of birds flying and the feet or the feathers or the something's clipped off. So just leave a little bit of room. And then, you know, if you got a motion subject like birds or something, then that's going to be a little more difficult to run your eye around the edges while you're shooting. But if, you know, let's just say over by you guys, the wood stork's sitting there and not moving, then think about where those branches, if you want to just clip it off, we'll give it a little room, either cut it way in or cut it off. If you're photographing your grandchildren or your children, you know, don't cut off arms right at the wrist. You know, cut them off at the elbow or show the hand. So don't clip just the fingers. Think about those things. And again, I go back to, well, what feels comfortable when you look at the image? So check your edges and leave some space. The one on the top I actually shot on the way down here up in the Great Smoky Mountains. These are all, by the way, these are all phone images. All right, the next tip. Well, we talked about keeping it simple, right? A couple times at least. Simplicity, big time. I'm sure you guys can agree with me. Many can. I know this is just my one opinion, but you know, you eliminate the clutter and you keep your images simple, and they're much more impactful. I could very well, and I do have this whole leaf, right? And it's a big leaf, but this was a lot. I wanted to show the texture and the line, and so that all that other stuff was taken away from that. So this was the shot I ended up with. Keeping it simple. Angles, big time. I'm a big angle guy. This is what got me started. This is what actually launched my career in getting paid to do this way back when I was a stay-at-home dad with my kids. I just had subject matter all the time and all day to do it, right? When they're sleeping, rolling around, playing, I would lay down and get as low as I could and photograph up at my children, even when they were real little infants. You know, giving them neck time, so their tummy time, so that they're, you know, they build a strength in their neck. And I would be down underneath, you know, as low as I can, shooting up, and just, it was a perspective that people didn't see on a normal day-to-day, you know, interaction or walkthrough. And that's what created just the buzz from from all the stay-at-home moms that I had befriended, and they saw my images and they wanted me to do the same for their children. I don't know how many times you run in, and I know Gary's this way. He gets down and plays with the kids. I do it all the time. I love it. I'm a kid at heart. I'm never going to grow up, but you know, get down and shoot and play. You know, sometimes it's hard to get back up, but you know, it's always good. So think about going and moving to the side, you know, from underneath, from above. Just think about the different angles that you can work your subject. I think it's so critical to slow down and shoot more and more of a subject than just a couple quick shots. I see so many people just clap, click, click, and then they move on. And I got to be honest with you, I very rarely, very, very rarely get the image that I was hopeful for when I do that. Because I find that the more I study and concentrate on a subject, the more creative and the more impactful and the more, you know, I like my image at the end of the day. So try those new angles, slow down, work that subject. Sense of depth, always great. Okay, so think about, using on the top one, use the leading line, right, to wrap around the stadium. This is shot with my Samsung with a 170-degree fisheye on it. A little bit of distortion on the left there. I didn't edit it. I didn't straighten it. I can straighten it. But what an amazing, amazing lens. And he's super sharp. This is by Moment. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So, and then the bottom one, right? So I'm shooting through the fence and it's just looking how big the fence is. And then all the way back in Colorado, all the way back to the mountain there, gives you just a great sense of depth. So think about how you can use that to your advantage to tell a story. And then close up and personal. I'm a huge fan of macro. Phone photography and macro photography is really where I do most of my work. Yeah, I shoot landscape and I shoot some street and city and architecture and all that. But for the most part, I really like getting into these intimate landscapes. And then I love the phone, just having it and working it. And so up close and personal, move in, fill the frame, again, simple. Keeping it simple. Silhouettes, another fun thing. This is great on the phone if you have the manual settings, okay? Or the newer iPhone has the exposure compensation in it, so you can turn it down. You want to get no detail in the black. That's the best for silhouettes, okay? So like the one below, well, and the one on the top, snow. I don't know when the last time you guys saw snow. If you guys wander up north, then maybe, but the one below is my dad actually shooting on a rock on the Oregon coast. But I took all the detail out of the blacks and just made that pop. And so great time for that is the blue and golden hours, right? So right before the sun is going down or right after, or up to an hour, hour and a half, which is great after it goes down, or vice versa on the sunset. Or sunrise. So those are the best time to shoot. And I'm telling you that if you're not an early riser, because early risers really get, the early bird gets the worm kind of thing, as they say, there's nobody out there. The hardcores are out there, right? As you guys know. But I like the afternoon light a lot better. I like getting out there like we're going at 3 tomorrow and doing that. I just think that part of the day is great, and through sunset. Abstracts, love abstracts. Wherever you can find an abstract, I love shooting them. Use patterns, and again, fill the frame. There's patterns in all kinds of nature, all kinds of architecture, all kinds of everything. So look for those patterns. Look for something that you can make abstract and just have some fun with it. And then one of the most critical things is focus. We got to locate that point that we want to focus on, and we want to make sure it's locked on and make sure we have that crisp. The big thing in the DSLR mirrorless is that using the your live view focus and zooming in and making sure that's in focus. It's a little more difficult on the phone, but you can. The phones have the tracking now. You can tap on the image or on the subject, whatever, and it can track it. It can but it's critical that you just make sure you have that focus, because I don't know how many times I got home and I just missed it, and it's hard to get back to that certain situation. So, but just I know this is kind of a repeat, but I think it's critical, and I think it's important to just think in your head. Don't try to rush through it, even though because it's a phone. Focus on it. Focus on the task and focus on the subject. All right, now we're going to go into some refining, the post-processing fun. I actually enjoy it. I enjoy photographing. I probably don't enjoy, having to put my image into my computer and all that, but I like sitting in front of the computer and actually playing with my images, you know. I mean, I don't as much like going through and selecting the ones I want after I shot 3,000 in some location and I gotta, you know, pull out the 3 that I really love, because that's honestly what we're getting, right? 3, 10, 15, maybe if we're super lucky, that are great, you know, that we were keepers that we'd hang on the wall kind of thing. So I shoot a lot of teaching stuff. So, you know, I have those as well, but here's a couple apps that I use. We'll get to the Snapseed. I use that one. That one's great. Vesco, it has those filters, but it also does some post-processing. And then Lightroom has some great capabilities. If you're a fan, I don't use it that much. Because I use Snapseed so much. But it also has a bunch of capabilities. And there's other ones out there that you can use. I would just, you know, read some reviews and see, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But overall, Snapseed really takes the cake on this one. I know a bunch of you guys are Snapseed users. I've even taken my shots out of my camera, my mirrorless camera, and put them up so I can get them on my phone so I can use Snapseed, because it's only usable on the smartphone. It is actually derived, if you don't know, from Nik software, if you're familiar with that. They came out with this when Google bought Nik software, and they decided to make a mobile app with those capabilities. Nik was probably one of the leaders at one time, and I know a lot of softwares have caught up to that, but Snapseed's great. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, something I want to talk about that I had mentioned earlier. This is important here again. A little bit at a time. There's a lot of functionality in here. I was just going over, my dad's doing a slideshow, bird slideshow. We're going to run a workshop down here next year. And I was trying to introduce him to a Premiere Pro from Adobe, and he was getting overwhelmed with it, and he was using ProShow Gold for his slideshows for so many years, and now they're not covering it, so he was getting frustrated. So I want you guys to think, you know, and take your time with this. There's a lot in here, so just a little bit of at a time. So when you first get in, this is a little, if you have an iPhone, it might be a little different look. Instead of the share icon up here, I think you have an export down here. So just there's a couple differences between, but this is the Android look, but they're very, very similar. Not just a couple variations on there. So you've got the pre-filters down below. You can, you know, do, you know, portrait, smooth, all kinds of things, and just some canned stuff that you can have in there and just quickly use, which is great in itself. And then that's under the looks. Now to look at the tools, here's the tools and the capabilities of Snapseed. And there's a lot of them. We're gonna go over a couple of them that I use pretty much for every image. The other ones, if I'm gonna try to get creative and those type of things, then I will expand into maybe adding some drama down here or some glamour glow or what have you. But for the most part, I use tune image, details. I'll do curves too. So if you're a curve user, this is just like in Lightroom. Crop, obviously. You can rotate. You can expand it too. I do a lot, some of the select and healing, and so we're going to go over some of those. But you can add frames. You can add text. So if you want to have some fun and add text, you can do a double exposure, and so on. So let's talk about the crop. Just has all kinds of capabilities. You can do 16:9, you can do free, you can do 5:7, you know, all of them, 3:2, anything. You can do square if you're Instagram, you want to throw square up there. So you can rotate it down here. So this will rotate it to a vertical versus a horizontal. And then this button selects, you know, opens this up. And so then you can just pull those down, put it wherever you want, and bam. You got it cropped. Like I like to say, crop the crap out of it, right? We don't want that in there. So, and then you'll come back after you hit and you hit the check mark and you get it right, you'll come back to go back into tools. And that'll be each time. So here's how this works if you're not familiar. So I've selected the tune image, okay? And so if you select down here, the adjustment thing, this pops up, okay? And what you can do is use your finger to you go up and down on your phone to move from brightness down to contrast, down to saturation, and so on. Once you select it, okay, you click on it, then you move left or right to adjust it. So to go scroll in the menu, go up and down. To adjust the levels, you go left or right on the screen. Okay. Here's some of the settings I typically adjust. I like to adjust my shadows. I like to enrich the blacks a little bit. So I usually bring my shadows down. Sometimes depending on the situation, I might want to bring a shadow up to show a little bit more, but usually, typically I bring them down, and then I'll do in the selective tool, I'll go in and adjust and bring up just that particular part of the image up. And ambience is like an overall kind of thing. It plays a little bit with in a global type setting. And then there's saturation and those type of things. And then detail is the other one that I use a lot. You can add some structure, but I usually set it at about 25%, 20% of sharpening and these are just me personally, my settings, but you guys can take a look and see what you're comfortable with. But this is under the detail and the tools, and same thing, you scroll up and down, either select structure or sharpening, and left or right to adjust the sliding scale. Oh, real quick up here too. So if you see up here where it says structure plus 12, if you double click on that, it'll go back to 0. Okay. So that's helpful. Like, oh, I don't really like it. Let me go back and start over. You can hit that. And that's with any of them. Healing. Much like, content aware, that's what I was thinking of the Photoshop when we were talking earlier. I couldn't think of it. But this healing or cloning, you can take a spot off. If you got a spot, I know, we all run into that here or there. So you can pinch the zoom in on your image and get in tighter, and then just use the dot to select, and it'll usually find a place that will help you out. If it doesn't, you can always use the arrow to go back a step. If you didn't like what you did, just go back and redo is what it is, or undo. And then we talked about the selective tool. So with this, you can take your finger and move around your image while you're pressing on the screen, get to a point, and if you hold it on there, this little screen pops up here. And so this X in the middle here, you can actually get it right on, say you wanted this specular highlight here, or this white, and you just wanted to adjust that, you can put it right on there and then let go, and then you can go up or down. You can adjust brightness, contrast, structure, and saturation. And so again, you go up and down, select that, and move left or right to run the scale. Pretty cool that they have this. I think this is a cool tool, the selective tool, where you can actually just, go in there and adjust. It's great for if you're, want to turn up highlights on a wave or something, and you want to, just make those little adjustments to give it a little pop. Or maybe you just don't like doing any with your images, then you don't have to worry about it. And so just to recap, here's the list of all the tools. So we went over tune, details, selective, we went over healing, and crop. And it also has the brush. I didn't have that in here, but you can use the brush like you would use in your other. But again, take your time, a little bit of a time when you're sitting, waiting for your second vaccination shot or something, and you have a couple minutes, grab an image and play with a couple of these. All right. And just see what it does. Go, oh, that's kind of cool. So, and then, you want to play with it later, or you want to do it to an image, that'll be good on this image, or, what have you. And then typically it saves it in its own folder under Snapseed. So it's its own subset. And then one of the last things is the undo redo. So when you come back out, up at the top here, you can see that it has that stack of images with the arrow. If you click on it, this will come up. You can undo, you can revert all the way back to a certain history, you can view your edits and so on. So it's a great tool. This was added later. This wasn't this while ago. They didn't have this. You do all this work to the image, and if you mess something up, you'd have to start all over. It was such a pain in the butt. So, all right, let's talk. How are we on time? I think we're doing good. We're getting there. So let's go over just some quick stuff about sharing, because I think this is super important. I think, I'm a big fan my thought is that we enjoy making images and taking them and doing all this work, but do we do this all work for ourselves really, or is it to show other people? And, I think there's a lot of that in there. And so I think that we should be sharing more. I just remember as a kid, my dad would, we'd be on the family vacations and he'd set up both carousels going with this projector, and he'd be, having them go together and going in between, and just really cool shows. Well, we could do that digitally too. We can do all kinds of things. We just spend a little bit more time sharing our overall experience that we did on that shoot versus just some images. Because not everyone wants to maybe sit through, I wouldn't say do a half-hour slideshow and put it up online, but you can. There's nothing wrong. But even 2-3 minutes would be great of video slideshow. So let's talk a little bit about sharing. Sure, you're very familiar with these, if not all of them, some of them, if not all of them. And these are Facebook's a great one. Share with your family, all kinds of capabilities there. Love it. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And we're going to talk about Instagram, which is my absolute favorite for photography and videography. And Twitter's okay. It works. Pinterest is another great one. To have your own, you pin your stuff up there and all that. But what I actually use Pinterest for a lot, and some of you may, is actually getting ideas, looking up different ideas of what I could do, what I could photograph different, especially in the macro world. So I'm always setting up pins based on, liquids and frogs and mushrooms and whatever. And that way I can go, oh, those are really cool. And I'm going to try that or this and that. And then YouTube is a great tool for uploading your videos. If you don't have if you can upload them to Facebook, your YouTube's a great way to share your work as well. So here's my Facebook page, my older back picture there. But so Facebook, you guys know you can share it publicly, or you can share it just with your friends, or you can actually just share it with yourself. There's actually a possibility there. But I want to just talk to you real quick about setting up some things. I'm sure you guys a lot of this is going to be review, but when you create a post, the options that you have. So make your, what's on your mind. You make it something catching. Maybe talk about your experience. Talk about if it's a specific, animal or something, talk a little bit about it, add a little bit more to it than just posting images. People like to read and maybe learn something or find something interesting. So think about how you can do that. You can check in, you can do all these things. You can add feelings. You guys know all this. I like to select multiple images because it's nice, because it displays in a nice way. So you can select as many, one if you want, or you can select as many as you want. You can create slideshow, all kinds of things. So take your time and get in there and just understand some of the capabilities. But here, this is just something I call named Beautiful Bosky Birds that we shot down there, and it just kind of put it in a nice little collage look. You can click on those images and they grow, and so you can look at them at actual size, but it works really nice just as that. And then you can tag people you're with. Again, you can offer it public, private, those kind of things. You can put videos in here, just good stuff. And then another thing that's cool is the stories. This is something that's kind of newer. You can create a story. It runs for the day. So activities you're having, if you have something quick, you can add, like I tagged Hunt's photo on here. So actually it's a clickable link. So if you want to send them, say, if you want them to see more of your work, you can send them to another page or what have you. You can put in text, you can color, you can do all kinds of things with all these nice things. So this is called Stories, and they have that in Facebook, and they also have it in Instagram. So all kinds of options up here. You can draw, you can just get creative. But you can do a series of them too, and it'll go through in a slideshow. So, and then you can also, once you create it, you can save it if you want to have a copy of that. And the one I use a lot is the Instagram. Big fan of the Instagram. Here's your options for the Instagram. You can add it if you're not on Instagram, I would seriously consider opening up an account, and just to look at the beauty that's out there and that's shared globally is amazing. You can just search on a hashtag, say, wood storks, or, swamps, or whatever, mountains, and just everything will come up, and it's all visual stuff. So it's a great app, and it's a great place to just connect with people and share. So so you see they have the feed, which is much like your what happens on your Facebook posts. Stories as well, they have that. Then you can follow other people's stories. You can save story highlights, because stories only run for the day, but you can save them and put them in a location where they're always there. They have Instagram TV, IGTV, so you can run video on here, but then you can also run video up to an hour on IGTV. So you can have a clip on Instagram, and then you can run a long video. So if you want to show a little, this is a perfect example for a slideshow. Show your slideshow, put some music in there, nice little video. Then if it goes over a certain length, like a minute, 18, depending whatever, and then it can kick over to IGTV, and they can watch the rest of it, watch more, and then they'll click on it. It's great. Reels can have a lot of fun with that, just some creative ways to do more video, more things, and then the guide is to help you out or whatever. But so just some great opportunities to share your work. Big fan. And then once you select your images, here's kind of the interface for posting it. I just called Bullseye. You can put all kinds of text in here, and then you can put in hashtags based on what your shot, what your subject is, and then other people can find you by searching those hashtags. You can do locations. You can post on here and share it right to any of these. And so it's a great little tool. It's a lot of fun. All right, now the good stuff. Let's talk about some of the gear that I stuff my bag with and carry with me and probably rarely use. No, I'm just kidding. So let's talk a little bit about lenses. So we talked earlier about the limitations to the phone, and they started coming out with lenses that you could attach to your phone in some way, either clip on, or for instance, Moment came out with a system where you purchased one of their cases for your specific phone, and their lenses will just screw right in. It clips right in on a 90-degree and holds there. These are what I use. I actually don't, I have all these lenses, but they don't have the case for this new one. This just came out a week and a half ago. So I guess the end of March, I'm supposed to be able to get that case where I can clip on these lenses, but they're great lenses. I talked about using the fisheye. What I really love, the wide angle, I don't know if you have a newer iPhone or a newer Samsung, I don't know if you really need it because these cameras have the wide angle now. So, but before we didn't have the wide angle, so that was a popular lens. But the telephoto 58mm is great. I can clip that on my old phone or on this one. I know on my old Samsung that I could clip it on my 2x, which is what the iPhone, I think 12 has a 2x optical zoom. And just think about screwing that in and you can get in even further. So you're already at 58mm and then you use the 2x lens and you get in closer. So I use that a lot for even my macro. So I can my working distance can be back a little bit, but I can zoom in close onto a middle of a flower or something. So I use that for that. Or, you know, trying to get to the birds, what have you with that. There are some other lenses coming out. I think I have a call actually with Gary, with Hunts and another company tomorrow about telephoto lens, a couple of them. One of them is a 400. So I'm really curious about this. I know a lot of the stuff in the past has not been good glass or good lens, and there's a lot of distortion. And so I'm not going to promote anything that's going to, you know, deteriorate or not be good. What I'm used to in my mirrorless camera, I'm not going to settle. So hopefully that this lens will be good. I'm really kind of excited about it. So we'll see. We'll let you guys know if that's a possibility. I know it's good. I just don't know how good it is. And I don't want to say anything if it's not. So, but that's how you get over some of the limitations when you're trying to shoot something far away and you want to zoom in and you can't walk in. So, you know, I'm really encouraged by where things are going. I actually was talking to Ira yesterday with this new Samsung S21. What they did on one of these lenses is it's actually a 10x optical zoom. And what they did was, because the limitation was because how thin the phones are, you can't get the sensor far enough away from the lens, right? So you can't get that telephoto. You can't. So what they did was they put a mirror in here, so the image actually goes in and it turns sideways, and now the lens is the length of the phone instead of the depth. And so now they're able to add that 10x zoom, which is crazy. It's just crazy what they're doing. So that's encouraged. So a Moment, big fan of the Moment, great glass. They're really well made. They're heavy for what they are. So those are great. And then these Sandmark's another good lens. They're specific, just like Moments for both, for iPhone and Android. Not all Androids, but I believe LG, Samsung, Google, and I don't know what else. So, and then you'll have to look that up if you're interested in the Moment. But Sandmark is for iPhone, and it's the same thing. You have to buy the case, and it screws in there as well, and it's good glass, and you'd be happy with that. So those have the same type of lenses, so you're able to get the telephoto on there, and they're nice because they're small and they fit right in your pocket. So they're great. And then there's Oliclip, which is one that you can clip on. Moment actually has a clip too. This one is good. Sometimes you can't get the case or the clip's easier. These get a little difficult because sometimes it takes a little effort to line them up over the camera. So just be patient with that. There's more and more lenses coming out. Just, I would read reviews and see if, there's good write-ups and those type of things. I'm going to try to put a write-up, a blog post together about lenses because I think it's important as they're advancing. But I just want to make sure that they're good glass and the distortion's not there. So just read reviews, talk to people, send me a note, drop me a line if you're interested in talking about it. I love to talk about all kinds of stuff, including gear. So tripods, I think tripod's important. It slows you down for one thing, but it's, you know, easy to make minor adjustments. Here's a new tripod that I'm actually encouraged and been trying out on this trip. Vanguard sent me this. It's a great travel, folds up real small, and then you unscrew this leg with the grip on it, and it can turn into a monopod. So, and then the legs flip up, so it's super small, fit in your backpack. And then this one comes with the phone adapter and Bluetooth remote control to control your shutter, which is great. Super light. This one's the carbon fiber option. So we have another tripod that's on the special list that you're going to get sent to as well. That's a nice Vanguard tripod that I endorse as well. So, but tripod's nice to just in the lower lights, or when you have a longer zoom, like if you're going to get into some of those bigger lenses for the phone, then you guys know any movement. I mean, it's, you know, it's like using a spotting scope. If you're moving too much, you know, or binoculars, it's really hard to find. So. And a tripod adapter. So I know that one comes with, this is a really nice one. It's if you have a regular tripod for Arca Swiss, it fits right in there. It does have mounting holes for you as well. This one's great because it can swivel. You can swivel it up and shoot down. That one's nice. So it has a 360 kind of swivel to it. The Sidekick comes in different colors. There's all kinds of ones out there. I like the spring ones too. Those are easy to load. This one you kind of have to lock in and you're locked in. But if you're out shooting, it's kind of like putting your big camera on the tripod anyways. Get everything set up and go. Lume Cube, lights, adding lights. So if, you know, depending on what you're shooting, I do a lot, like again, I do a lot of macro photography. So I use these panels in the Cube. I'm actually using the Panel Pro right now to light up my face over here. So that works well. You can adjust it both for white balance. So it goes from 3200K to 5600K, I think, somewhere in there. So you can adjust the warmth or coolness of it. And then the intensity as well from 0 to 100, which is great. And the Panel Pro, now we do the same thing, but we can add color. So we've got RGB. So we can do any color in the RGB scale, and that's great. So if you want to have a little fun with macro, or even any subject that you're shooting, you want to add a little color, that's a lot of fun. You know, a lot of us are locked in the house, so to have your home, build a home studio for ourselves and just do some still life photography is great. Just grab different stuff or plants or whatever around the house and just have fun with it. The Lume Cube 2.0 is a smaller little cube. It's very intense light on it. It comes with some gels that you can obviously cool, warm it, diffuse it, those type of things. Both the Pro and the 2.0 are Bluetooth enabled, so you can control the intensity from your phone. And so that's great. And you can turn it on or off. You can flash them, they'll strobe, they can flash, they can link, you know, sync and all that. So they're great. And the 2.0 is actually waterproof up to, I think, 3 feet. It might be 3.5 feet. I think I'm safe to say 3 feet. I wouldn't test it, but so that's great. If you want to throw it in a tidal pool, you want to throw it in a pool, and you know, kids are swimming around and light them up, just have some fun with it. So that's good. Uh-oh, where'd those images go? Uh-oh. So I guess they got eaten. So the diffusion reflector disc is, they got the 12-inch disc and even bigger sizes. I use the 12-inch a lot for diffusing in my macro photography. I use it for my phone as well. I just wonder where the images went. So those are just discs. They fold up into a small little carrier. We can talk about that with Gary a little bit. And then the Wimberley Plamp 2 is a, it's got a clip on the one end, and it has, you can adjust it move around, snake around, and it has calipers on the end that I usually clamp to my tripod, and then the calipers I use to hold the diffusion disc over it. So those are great as well. Sorry, I didn't have the pictures on there. I know they're there. They're probably behind it. And then some of the last tools that we're talking about, we got the Hoodman loop, which I'm a fan of. I don't know if any of you guys use that. I use that for the back of my LCD on my Sony. It magnifies and it cuts out all the ambient light, and I can adjust it to my eye like a binocular, and just be able to just focus in on the image. It works great on the phone as well. And those are a great tool to have. And then when I do a lot of my shooting, when I have my big lens on a tripod, I use this Alonzi tripod and I attach it to my side of my tripod. The legs wrap around nice, and it has a phone adapter right on top, and I put my phone on it. And a lot of times I'm shooting video while I'm photographing with my long lens. So I can do all kinds of stuff as long as I got a good stable base on the tripod. And then I go between my phone and my Sony system, and I shoot both. And then I'm shooting video on one, I'm shooting video on the other, I'm shooting stills. And so I've got both those cameras going. Yeah, maybe I'm a little crazy, but I just like adding video. I like, just I'm there, right? And I'm witnessing something, and I just consciously made an effort to capture as much as I can. I know there are large files, and I got, a big file system, but I enjoy it. And that way, again, when I'm sharing my stuff, we talked about sharing, I have different things I can share with people, different experiences and they can feel like they were there instead of just looking at just one particular image. I just love incorporating motion video, or a series of shots put together in a quick couple seconds. You can reach out to Gary. Noah is him. Both of them are partners. They work really hard. Noah's Gary's right-hand man. They do a great job. So you can send Gary G Farber at Hunts Photo, or you can send and it's G Farber, right, Gary?
Yes, it is. I put my email down in the chat.
Okay, good. And N Buchanan, gets to the same place. And like I said, they'll absolutely take care of you. Anything you need. So let's do a quick summary here, and we're going to open it up to some questions. So remember, focus is critical. Okay. We want to keep it simple. Okay. Try to keep the subject simple. Try to keep your background simple. Try a little bit at a time with these apps. Okay. And the camera settings and those, just try a little bit at a time. Don't get frustrated, right? Patience and practice. And then when you've done that, more patience and more practice. And then more patience, and then more practice and practice. I think that's the key, is three things actually. One is get good information. Okay. So like you're doing right now here, we're having a talk, we're talking about, you guys are learning something, hopefully building at least a little bit of awareness, something new. Go out and practice what you learned. Okay. What you heard, practice it, and then get feedback on that practice. And that's what we're doing on March 18th, right? So we're going to come back and get feedback on an image, okay? Series of images that we are all shooting. We're going to talk about, we're going to have dialogue with the photographer. So whoever's image it is, we're going to talk and get some understanding of what they were thinking. And then I'm going to offer some suggestions and just see where we go. The feedback is so critical. And the other little piece on that is look at good photography. You guys know when you see good photography, you get that reaction. So hunt down good photography and then try to emulate that. And the phone is no different than your DSLR. There's just some limitations, right? And some things you got to come over or get over to be able to use it. But the sooner that you can get over thinking about how you're going to do the settings, the faster you're going to be in the part of your brain that you need to be creative. I think that's important. So try not to think about numbers and all that, right? So the phone can be, you know, it's just a whole nother thing to learn. But I think it's worth it because it's the camera that's with us all the time. And so I think it's important that we could at least use that tool. And you guys will, once you get comfortable, you're going to find a lot of love in it, I promise. Or you're going to throw it in the water and say, I'm done. So you never, or drop it in. I thought I was going to drop it a couple times. I'm thinking I need to get a case with a wrist thing because I'm hanging over those railings at Waxahachie. I'm like, well, that would be gone if I just dropped it, because who's going in there to get it? And now I poison the environment, so we're not doing too well. All right, assignment time. You guys ready? Got homework. You guys, what homework? All right, so for our for our feedback on March 18th, what I want you to do is I want you to work on storytelling. Okay, so I want you to pick a subject. It can be any subject. You can go right across the street and just pick wood storks. Let's just use them for example. And I want you to create 7 images to tell a story about the wood storks. So think about how you can show them in 7 different images. And then what I want you to do is even with those 7 images, I want you to create and submit 1 image. It's actually supposed to be 2 words. Tells your, it's a new word, tells your best story in 1 image about that subject. So as a whole, let's just use the wood storks for example. Is there 1 image that would maybe tell a story for this time right now? So they're building nests, right? And a lot of them are sitting on eggs, and all kinds of, then they're going to hatch and all that. So in the coming weeks here, so there's all kinds of things to tell in a story there. So you could go back multiple times, or they're all at different stages, right? Not everyone's laid an egg. Some are just starting their nest. Some had their nest built for a while. I mean, this is just an example. You can use anything. You can, you know, talk about, you know, if you've got other things you want to shoot, go for it. It can be anything. But that's just an example. And then try to, you know, come up with 1 image that tells not just, oh, that's the stork's eye, right? Like tells something really unique or different and about that particular subject. Does that make sense? Should be fun, something different. And then, so any of those of you that are coming to join us tomorrow, we can work on this as well. And have some fun.
Where do you want them to send the image?
I'll send that information out after.
Okay.
We don't want to cloud it too much. Yeah, I'll send you a link and then you can send it out to everybody where they can upload it. And then we'll come back and do a Zoom and run through those.
Harry has his hand raised. Harry?
Okay. It may be a little off today's subject, but it may help Gary sell more cameras. Can you, in 10,000 words or less, tell us the pros and cons of a mirrorless camera versus a DSLR?
Before we actually, Todd can answer that, but if you if you want that, we have Hans does a whole program on that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. We'll start with that. And let me just finish up real quick here. And then, because I got like 2 minutes and then we're in the questions. Okay, so everyone's good on the assignment. If you're not interested in the assignment at all, and some maybe, that's fine. Just in the end, just submit a phone image for feedback if you don't feel like you want to do. But I encourage you to do the assignment and work through it. I think it has a lot of value in trying to figure out. This comes back to trying different angles and, you know, different perspectives, giving some depth, just trying to work the subject. And it leads to the patients. A couple quick ads here. One is, so if you like anything about what you heard here today, actually, we're launching a 6-week course on just phone photography. A lot more detail. It's 6 weeks of this, 2 hours a night, starting every Wednesday, starting April 21st to May 26th. We're going to dive into everything. We're going to have just a session on iPhone, just a session on Android. We're going to talk about composition, visual design, the elements and principles. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to have feedback sessions. There's going to be a private group area where we can share information, talk, ask questions, get to know people, all kinds of things. So it's a great opportunity to just advance your phone photography if you're interested. And so that is going to open up this weekend. So that's launching this weekend for assignments. So keep an eye out on that. You can go to our website for that. I'll put that in the chat, but it's also at the end if you want to take a screenshot with your cell phone of my contact information in a second here. And then we got one coming up here really quick. The Space Coast Photo Summit, the Space Coast Virtual Photography Experience. This is a great opportunity to learn from a lot of the well-known photographers. There's a bunch of them. We're all pairing up with another pro photographer to do 2.5 hour sessions on different topics. I'm partnering with Monica Royal. We have before, and so we're bringing back the fun, and we're going to talk a lot about some of the stuff I talked about today in storytelling. The title of ours is Get Wild Beyond Wildlife, and we're going to talk about when you're out there shooting wildlife or shooting other subjects, how to keep your eyes open, move around, and look at other things to help tell that story, kind of like what we're doing with our assignment. So we're going to talk from macro to, grand landscapes and all kinds of stuff. So this is March 26th to 28th. Gary and Hunts is running this, so it's going to be great. Really looking forward to it. I'm honored to be part of it. And I don't know, Gary, you want to talk a little bit about it? I don't know. We don't want you to miss out and it fill up on you. I don't know if there's a limit on it or not.
No, there's no limit on it. I mean,
Okay.
there's no limit on it. You go onto the site, there's, be different sessions, from bird photography to portrait photography to iPhone photography. There's Joey Merrick does some amazing speakers. There's some young photographers doing session. We're gonna have demo sessions of hunts. We're gonna have panel discussions. So go check it out. I can in the email that's being sent out. I did put a link to that as well. So.
Okay, great. Perfect. And then let's see, wait. And then I want to thank you guys for having me out. This has been great. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm also looking forward to all the pictures coming back for the feedback. So in regards, so if you want my contact information here, take a snapshot. I got my website, my email, our Facebook at Nettelhorst Images, and then my personal Instagram, and then the phone number to reach me. So if you need anything, you have any questions or help outside of what we're going to answer here about the assignment, about anything, just send me a note. I'm happy to get back to you, talk to you about it, and help out in any way I can. I hope there was something helpful here for you guys. It's really kind of a high level look at a lot of this because there's a lot of details in there. That's why I advise if you're really interested and you really want to get into this, to look at that course and think about taking it to really get a grasp on all this. So we're going to go in detail about apps and how to work them, and we're going to do hands-on with that. So you're going to be editing images while I'm editing images, same images. So we're really going to, it's really based on a good learning model education that we've created ourselves called Inform, Practice, and Feedback. And we just do that learning cycle and iterate that to really help you guys out. So With that being said, let's open it up to questions, and I'll stop the share here so we can see faces. And if we need to, I can go back to that.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
The question is this. You've covered iPhone and you've covered Samsung. And you've covered a lot of things which probably I'll never use. And I took a lot of notes. So in a 6-week course, with my having an iPhone and lots of people having an iPhone and or a Samsung, we don't collect iPhones and lenses the way you do as a professional. Are we wasting, it's a bad way to put it, are we wasting much of our time in 6 weeks if we only have an iPhone?
Well, so I don't know how to answer that, because if you have an iPhone, then if you want to learn about it, then you should take this course. This isn't specific to, other than one night, one of the Wednesdays is specific to your actual device. So on the second week of the course, the 6-week course, simultaneously, we're going to run 2 Zoom meetings. One's going to be for iPhone users, one's going to be for Android users. But outside of that, it doesn't matter what phone you have. The course is going to go over talking about using apps that are capable or compatible with most of the phones out there.
Good, yeah.
But if you're not interested in going into more depth about how you can use your phone as a tool, then I wouldn't advise taking the course. But if you want to learn about some more and using and actually walking through some more of the creative apps, the editing apps, those type of things, learn more about creating and telling stories with your phone and the different capabilities of that, then I would encourage it. Does that answer your question? Or
Yeah, very well.
okay, good.
There were some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to Harry, right? I think it was Harry that asked that one about mirrorless versus DSLR.
Right.
Gary touched on that. Noah actually has a phenomenal presentation that covers all of that. Gary can, I know, speak a little bit more to that. I have both. I went from Canon as a DSLR, and then I moved, and I finally bit the bullet after researching for years and bought Sony system, all new, and switched. And I was frustrated for the longest time. Not the longest time, but for weeks, because it was brand new to me, the whole menu system. Like if you're going from Canon to Canon mirrorless, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a little bit lighter, those type of things. But if you're trying to really get light and everything, you're at the right place. This is it, the phone. But when it comes to really good equipment, mirrorless is really, they're doing some great stuff with it. So I would encourage you to connect with Noah and Gary about that and see when that presentation, or maybe they'll even have a meeting with you guys here to talk about it. Right, Gary? I'll let you answer that.
So yeah, so we do have program mirrorless cameras. So if you are interested in us doing a program for you guys, have Ira or Andrea reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you guys afterwards. I can look at lining this up. It's about a 50-minute program that we do, and it goes into the concepts of, you know, mirrorless versus DSLRs and all the advantages. It's a very educational program, and so if you guys are interested in that, I'm happy to bring it to you guys' club. We just got to figure out a date to do it, but I'm happy to do it. But the future is mirrorless. You're not going to see a lot of companies coming out with DSLR cameras anymore. I think those are going to be harder and harder to find. There is speculation that Nikon is going to be coming out with 2 new DSLR cameras. But this year, one is a replacement of a Nikon D500, and the other is a replacement of a Nikon D850. But other than that, I don't really see people putting money out and coming out with new DSLR. So the future is mirrorless. and that's the way it's going. I mean, for Hunt's Photo, every single year, mirrorless, the DSLR sales have continued to go down for the last 5 years, and mirrorless cameras have gone up every single year. So that's where the trend's going the last 5 years. You're going to see more and more mirrorless cameras come out, and you're going to see more and more lenses started coming out. Right now, a lot of people have not gone mirrorless because the lenses, there's not a lot of selection of lenses out there. But you're going to see more and more lenses coming out for mirrorless cameras over the next 3 years. So that's
Okay,
fine.
I'll survey them and see if they're interested in doing something like that, and I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. So that was that. There was someone hand. There's a couple other questions, but I think there's a hand raised. If you want to answer that from Marina.
Miriam.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, I have an Enduro tripod, a carbon fiber tripod,
Mhm.
and I use a specialty plate on my various cameras. I have one mirrorless. I also have an Canon 80D, and I have a Sony RX10 M4. But I use this plate so I don't have to take the plate off, take the strap off to use the tripod. But then I use this device to attach to the plate.
Does that have a screw on it?
Yes, it has a screw on it in the back.
Yeah, so it's sticking up. So the one I showed you, is that what you're referencing? How is it? Because you don't have the Arca Swiss, right? Is that?
I don't have Arca Swiss. This is what goes into the head that I have.
So the base of it has threaded holes in it, so you can just screw it right onto that plate.
Yes, I just have to line it up the right direction so it fits into my thing. Is if I want to put my iPhone on my tripod, because I have this.
Yeah.
Plate is supposed to be Arca Swiss, supposedly, but I screw this into one of the holes, and then I have a black rapid strap that goes through another hole in the front, so that I don't have to take the strap off.
Okay.
So what kind of adapter can I use?
Well,
Could I just stop you for a second, Miriam? That's a really specific question. Let me just see if there's more general questions, and then you could just ask that at the end and just talk to Todd about it.
Okay, because it took a lot of effort to get it off.
If you want, Marie, you can send me. Todd. You want to put your email down in the chat?
Yep.
Just email him, and he can find it out for you. And if you need more information, you can put my Todd, put my email down too, and she can reach out to me. We can find it out for you.
Okay.
So I should take a picture. I should take a picture of this on the plate that I have.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Anne.
Okay, Todd, I have a question for you, and it has to do with a lot of our membership that is just learning and just beginning to enter some competitive events.
Mm-hmm.
Those events, let's just say for one, might be the F3C.
Yep.
Club Council, it could be our own competition, which we had to do online this time. So a lot of the online competitions require you to export your image and upload it to them with a pixel on the longest edge. Is there any way? Now, a lot of our people work on iPhones, work on smartphones, work on Samsungs, but they don't have a computer. How can they get that picture out of their camera to comply with a longest edge requirement, like 1600 pixels, 1200, whatever it might be?
Right.
Is
So, yeah, so outside of the export capabilities of, say, Lightroom app or what have you, let's just say that you have that image. You can, what I do a lot of times is I email it to myself, and then I open it up on my laptop or computer, and then you can do your editing there.
Some of them don't have editing capability on their computer. So one way to do that would be to export the picture through your Lightroom app. That would do it on the mobile app.
Yeah, let me look specifically at something. I'll get back to you on that, and we can send it out to the club.
Right.
You're talking about being able to do it just from your phone.
Right. Is there a way?
Everything from the phone all the way through.
Correct.
Correct?
Yep, that would be the question. And I have one more question also for you to address.
But real quick, Ann, it's going to depend, right, on what what app, what phone they have. So there's going to be different. I'm trying, I want to come up with a way that can be universal. So that's why I wanted just a little more time to figure that out. It's a great question. And so I will get
And
back
also
to all you
maybe
guys.
that you might give us an opportunity to pursue this through different apps. Try this app or that app, but these would do it. The second question, Todd, I have is in the same thing. We have a lot of people that don't understand when they want to take a picture of an image or capture an image with their smartphones. And what they do is they put their fingers on the screen and they want to get closer, so they spread their fingers. And when they do that, they're destroying the resolution and the pixel capability. And now when they try to enter that or give it to us to resize it for them, I'm looking at the picture and there's no pixels left. So is there advice you can give to anybody about shooting and cropping and that kind of thing? So don't.
So when I was alluding to it earlier in the presentation, it's such a limitation, and especially if you have, say, an iPhone 6 or I know it's like 80% of you are iPhone users, so that's why I'm leaning towards that. But it's true for the Androids as well. But if you have an older model, your lenses, the camera's just not there. iPhone, for one reason or another, I don't understand it, because they were such a creative company and they were all about graphic arts back in the day, graphic design and everything. And they just decided to just not think about the camera when they were making phones. And I don't understand why they didn't advance a lot sooner, but that's a whole nother conversation. But those older phones absolutely don't have the capabilities to get in close, because once you start zooming in, which is called digital zoom, it's death, because the pixel, it just gets really pixelated, as you guys know. The best option for you is to take it full.
Correct.
Take it full screen. Well, the best option is I alluded to earlier, was use your foot zoom. So if you can get closer, walk in as close as you can. With that limitation, you can't get any closer. Take the picture as it is, and then crop it after.
Correct.
It'll save you. And if you can shoot in an app that is raw, that has raw, so it'll shoot raw. Some of those I mentioned will shoot raw, and so then you're able to actually do more with it. But the limitation is only what your camera is able to do. You guys know that. That's why you buy more expensive cameras with better sensors and all that, better, equipment. So that's that whole debate on that.
Well, Todd, what I would say to people is that if in fact they crop the image and it's now still on their phone, what they should do at that point is zoom on the image after it's cropped. And if they zoom a little bit, they'll see the resolution disappear.
Yeah.
They'll know right away what will happen to it, because when it looks on their phone, it looks fine. When you bring it into a computer screen and you blow it up now to a size of our computer screen, it's horrible.
Yeah, if you can get it to 100% zoomed in and it's clear, it's crisp, you're a winner.
Yep.
But that's difficult on the older phones. So my other advice to it is time to upgrade. Does that answer you, Ann? Or you buy a lens that you can put on. You can clip on. You buy a case that you can screw in a lens, and one of those ones I mentioned, that will absolutely, because it's optically zooming with the lens and not digitally, and you're just throwing pixels throwing all that detail right out. I mean, you guys know that's just crazy.
Hopefully some of our smartphone users listen to that and they kind of got a gist of that. That's a problem.
Yeah, and if drop me a note if you guys want to know more about that. I mean, and some options, and it just once iPhone got to iPhone 8, it got a lot better, and then now they're finally caught up and they're doing great. So, but they're the cost of a computer, so beware.
Doris has a question.
Yes, Doris.
Hi, I typed my question into chat, but I'll repeat it. Could you just go over again about focusing with your finger on the screen and locking the focus? And my other question is, I see these tiny little green squares that appear sometimes and don't appear other times. I don't even know what they're for.
Okay, So those, I'll answer that. The green squares are so, and they'll blink, right? Or they'll move.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so they're similar to in your DSLR if you have them too. What that is that that's what it's focusing on. It's auto focusing. So it's moving around and trying to grab. And so it's just highlighting. Sometimes there'll be a lot of squares. Sometimes if it's smaller, there'll be little ones. And so that's actually moving around and focusing on the what it's trying to autofocus.
Okay.
If you want to lock in, what you need to do is push on, just say it's a tree. You want to focus on the trunk of that tree. Push on it and hold it there. So if once you push on it, sometimes this yellow box comes up. Its iPhone might be a little bit different. I can't, but you'll see it'll frame it. If you hold it in, it'll lock it on there.
Okay.
And so then you know it's locked. But if you move away, then, you know, sometimes it'll track with it. But that's, does that answer your question?
You can move the square with your finger to where you want to focus
Yeah,
and then hold it there.
yeah.
And then it changes to green on my phone.
It'll lock. And then if it's tracking, that's where the green comes in.
Okay, thank you.
On the iPhone, what comes up, it says AEAF lock. Then you know that that's locked onto the spot.
And then I think you can adjust, actually, I don't know about the older ones, the new ones, then you can slide and do a exposure compensation with that, right?
On the 8, yes. I have an 8.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, it can get confusing with that, but it's similar in a way with the DSLR mirrorless as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
The,
Okay, thank you very much. This was great.
yeah, good. So for those of you joining us tomorrow, I think is it booked? I think it's sold out, right?
Yeah.
I will send the latest. I pulled it down, but I'll check. If you haven't registered for it and you are coming, make sure you do so. Fill out the registration, even if you're bringing your payment to the location. And then again, we'll park and then we'll meet in that grassy area right there.
Harvey has a question.
Yeah, for tomorrow coming, should we only bring the iPhone or should we bring our regular cameras as well?
So I'm okay with whatever. I would bring the phone 100%, but I would like to teach to that. But if you want to bring your camera and shoot with that, and if you have questions with that, I got no problem with that. I'm gonna, you know, we've got a good sized group. It's tough for one person, so I want to make sure I get to everybody and get everybody their time. So, well, I'll explain all that tomorrow. But I want to try to focus on just the phone for this because of what our talk was about. But I'm definitely, if you want to bring your other camera, because I know it's hard not to when you're out shooting, please do. And I'm happy to answer any questions there too, but I just want to keep that limited.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. It's
All
a
right.
pleasure. We'll see you guys all on the 18th and then some of you tomorrow. So again, if you have any questions or any thoughts or anything, please drop me a note. I really appreciate it.
One question out of curiosity.
Yeah, Michael.
If it rains tomorrow, what?
You schedule it?
What do you want to do? Like here's what I think. You get what you get and you don't get upset. So you shoot in the rain.
Bring an umbrella.
I just thought I'd ask that because some people are going to want to know.
There's no rain for tomorrow.
Hey, if it rains and you don't want to come, you know, refunds happen, no problem. But I'm just saying that, you know, you might want to just come anyways. How often you shoot in the rain? It's a lot of fun.
You don't want to be indoors, right? You want to be outside. So what the matter? We've been indoors for the last year.
Yeah.
So.
But wear your masks and yeah, and we're gonna stand 30
water.
feet apart. 30 feet apart. Water, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
No,
see you guys tomorrow.
All right, thanks so much, everybody.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
see you tomorrow. Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow, Gary.
All right. Okay, I'll be there.